welcome back to the live stream. We're going to be answering community questions. So if you got any questions, you're going to want to drop them in the chat below while people get settled in and people join the live chat. If you're watching the replay, let me know in the comment section below as well, or the chat section, and I'll try to come back and answer those questions. But for all of you watching the live stream, the chat is going to be your best friend. That's where you're going to want to put your questions so that I can answer them. In the meantime, however, we are going to be in the Atlassian community forums and looking at the questions asked there. And same style as last time, we are going to make some slight modifications. The only major change is this time I am not going to be answering the questions like typing, right? I don't want to bore you all here watching the live stream with me actually typing and answering and like going through my thought process of me just typoing and making mistakes. So I'm going to keep them to the side, and then after the live stream's over, I'm going to then finish answering. And I additionally, one of the things that my wife thought about was once the video's done and I finish the live stream, I now have a video with a timestamp that I can then go into that answer and tell them here's the video description of it. So it's like an added bonus. So anyways, I'm going to try that out, see how it goes, and hopefully it works out pretty well. We are going to be essentially jumping into my screen here, and so let me go in there. And again, I'm monitoring the chat, so if at any point you jump in here, I'll try to make some call outs throughout the live stream here. I'm going to be doing 30 to 45 minutes depending on how many questions I see here, and then depending on how many questions come in. Last week we didn't get any questions, so this is your time. This is an interactive thing. This is your opportunity to get those juicy Jira questions answered. And so if you have anything, just let me know in the chat. I'll be monitoring that. But yeah, so while those questions come in, while people jump in, I'm just going to jump off the first question here as same style from last week. So I'm in the Jira section. I'm actually going to restrict this to questions just because I don't want to go down articles. I don't want to go down discussions. And so I'm just going to leave it to the questions and show you how to actually do some of these questions here, and again, answer them for the community. So first question on the docket here is turning on rich text editing. This is really interesting. Oh, and by the way, this is not scripted at all. So this is just you watching me try to figure out how to answer these things. I do consider myself a bit of a Jira expert, and so let's see how much trouble we can get ourselves into here. Hopefully not too much. Hopefully I can answer a decent amount of questions. It's always humbling to do these questions because even though I spend 12 hours a day in this tool, every once in a while I just don't know what the answers are, and so it's great to kind of go and recreate it and try to figure it out and learn something, right? If anything, I'm stretching my Jira muscles, and you, by watching the live stream here, you get to stretch those muscles along with me. So enjoy. Again, this is really just for the community here, so any questions in the chat, it could be anything. Even if you just want to say hi, just say hello in the chat. I'd like to know who you are, who's here. My metrics over here tell me there's at least 2 people watching, so drop a hi, be interactive, and let's make this fun and exciting for everybody. All right, so jumping into the question here, I'll read it out loud. We got a turning on rich text editing. Have a project in Jira that has been using plain text for the longest time, years and years. We'd like to switch to rich text editing, but do not know what ramifications will be to the numerous cards that have been closed and what is still open in the backlog. Any known issues with doing this switch that we should be aware of? So let's take a look. Let's go and reproduce this. So one of the first things that I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and create a couple of stories, which I should already have. I'm just going to go look first at my setting. I want to make sure I am not in rich text editing mode already. And so I'll show you how to find out if you're in rich text editing mode, and then we'll turn it off if it's on, and if it's off, then I'll leave it alone, then I'll turn it on. So let's go take a look at Jira and see what we got going on over here. So in my Jira tool, the rich text editing feature is actually built into the field configuration. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to go into my settings and issues here, and then on the far left side, I'm going to come down to field configurations. Now by default, there's usually only one field configuration, but just know that every project usually shares this field configuration, unless you go and proactively go and make more field configurations, which you should if you're making fields like mandatory and things of that nature. So I'm going to jump into this default field configuration here, jump in, and I'm gonna look for like the description. The description is usually a really good example of a rich text field, because the description is usually the place where you would come in and add a bunch of like elaborate text is the appropriate word, right? And so once you find the field in question, you'll see the style renderer, and you can actually come over here to the right side. You can click on renders, and you'll notice that you have a couple of different styles. So you have the wiki style, which means that my description was already in a rich text field edit mode, and I can change it to default. So I'm thinking about this, and I'm not quite sure that I want to do it this way, but you know what? We got nothing else to do, so let's change it. I'm going to change it to default text renderer. This is going to impact every single issue, and so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open an issue up. I'm just going to pick a random one, see if anything does have a description. I don't think that I have a description to any of these, but let me just do a couple of bullets. This is a good example. This is a bullet. This is another bullet, and this is another bullet also. So I'll save that, and what this basically does is, you see the bullets here, this shows you that you have the rich text edit mode. And so I'm kind of going to do the opposite of everything, try to break it, and then try to fix it back and see if there's any change. So let's take a look. And so I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to hit update, which basically means now that my issues are all they're all going to be touched, and so they're all going to be impacted by this. So if I refresh this screen here, I should see the bullets go away. They don't go away, but when I click into it, I don't have the ability. Okay, so maybe bullets wasn't the right way of doing this. So let's actually just put in text. This is some text. This is more text. I can make some of these like this. I'm really concerned that I actually don't have the rich text edit mode, because I thought I would have. I could have sworn this would have looked differently. But let's find out. This is why we're here. I've never really. I know how to toggle them, and that's usually the question, is like, how do you toggle it between one and the other, which is what I just demonstrated to you. But the question at hand isn't like, okay, toggle it yes or no, but what happens if I toggle it? What are the repercussions of that? So let's turn it back on and see if anything changes, because as you can see here, I got the bullets, I got some bold going on, and like maybe I'll make this one bold. This one's on as a header. There's I thought that's what that would have done. I don't spend too much time. I don't try to get fancy with my text. I just put words in Jira. I don't try to get all creative and fancy and make it look all pretty. So this is not something that I'm usually playing around with and seeing what it does. So let me change it back to update, and let's see if it does anything. Let's see if it does anything drastic. So I'm just gonna refresh this. Should probably have hit saved, and let me hit save. Let me see if there's anything that stands out. Like, there's nothing in here that I think stands out that would have said, you know what, let's put it in a table. Let's see how this looks. Although I could have sworn I had a table on the other one. You know what? I'm just rambling. Let's just make a whole new custom field that I know is not going to be a rich text field, and then we'll play around with that. That's what I should have done at the beginning. So to do that, I'm just going to go to custom fields here on the left, and I'm just going to create a text box field. And so this one's a paragraph, and I'm just going to put in a demo field for demo field is what I'm going to call it. So I'm going to stick that demo field one into my FJC screens, and then I'm going to go in and open up my FJC project, and I should be able to open up a story here. I got the home page, and I'm actually going to open up the screen, the issue full screen here. And so I have my demo field here. This is what I was expecting, right? So this is just some random text. This is more text. You'll notice how I don't have all the fancy options to make things bold and things like that. So in theory, what I should be able to do is if I go back to my field configuration, I should be able to come back over here. I should be able to look up my demo field. I'm going to type that in. and it should find it. And you see it's by default it's a text render. So I'm gonna update it to be the rich text field, and I'm gonna hit update real quick. And so now it's wiki style. And so now if I refresh this page, this should behave the way I was expecting it to have been behaving, hopefully. I click in here. Yeah, now I can do bullets. Now I can do strike throughs. Now I can do headers. So there is no change, right? There is no impact to the existing. The text looks exactly the same. If anything, I would say that if you're going from a rich text back down to default, that maybe you'll have problems there. But I'm not seeing any repercussions of going from just a very basic text over to a newer view. So I'm gonna keep this one to the side. I'm essentially gonna come back, reference this point in time in the recording, and then just let them know that I didn't see any consequences or issues there, and so we'll leave it at that. So that's it for that first question. I think that was an easier one, and so let's go see what else is next. So we got dun, 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 dun. And if you're enjoying this, if you're just joining here, make sure I am watching the chat, so make sure you drop your question in the chat. I love to answer your Jira questions. I'm here to help answer your Jira questions. As much as I love answering the community questions, my audience, right, my supporters, my subscribers, I want to answer your questions. So make sure you're asking your questions. Make sure you drop a like. Make sure you say hi. Do some interaction here so we can get a good conversation going. So anyway, jumping back into Jira, we're going to be answering our next question, which is how to track tickets added to a future sprint. Now, I like this question, and I like this question not because I know how to do it, although I kind of have an idea, but I like this question because this is the type of question that you shouldn't ask, because fundamentally we got to take a step back, right? And it's, what is the purpose of Agile if not to be able to reflect and do your iterative cycles and kind of pivot, right? When you're planning out sprint 41, 42, 43, 44, and 45, that is 5 times 2. That is 10 weeks. That is almost an entire quarter of the year you have already pre-planned. In fact, they already have, if you look at the question, they have the entire quarter. They have 6 sprints planned out: 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, and 45. They're currently working on 40. So they have 6 times 2. They say that their sprints are 2 weeks long. So they literally have 12 weeks, one entire quarter, 1/4 of the year pre-planned. And so my question isn't like how to do it, but my question is, why would you do this? Why would you want to pre-plan an entire 1/4 of the year? Like, can you, like, so many bad things can happen in just one day, let alone, like, how can you imagine how many bad things are going to happen within the next 12 weeks? Like, this question just doesn't make sense. So when I reply, I'm going to include my opinion of, you shouldn't be planning basically a quarter out of a time. It is good for you to kind of have a North Star. It's good for you to put epics and kind of put, like, I like to tell teams to put their epics into like a release that is going to be at a quarterly level, so that you at least have a North Star. But the sprints are like the details, right? The sprints is where you're putting the day-to-day activities. It's not wise because you're pigeonholing yourself, right? What's going to happen when sprint 40 gets delayed or items get rolled over? And then it's just like this infinite snowball of, it's just a really bad practice. So anyways, let me keep reading this question and see if I can't make any sense of this. So we have a cutoff date a week before the sprint starts. After this cutoff date, no one's allowed to add or remove any tickets to the sprint. Okay. To this sprint or to all the sprints? Is there a way to track filter any tickets that were added or removed after the cutoff date from the inactive sprint? Sprint to start in a week's time. We use created date is greater than this, okay, which displays when tickets are created after a certain date. However, we need to be able to track not just the tickets created, but rather added or removed from an inactive sprint. Any advice would be much appreciated. Wow. So again, this is a bit of a loaded question. It's not that I don't feel comfortable answering it, because I definitely have an opinion about this, but from a technical perspective, I'm not 100% sure how I would tackle this. Just coming to mind, like, out of the box Jira, I don't think there is a an easy way of doing it. I think there's a clever way of doing it, but I don't think there is just like a clear cut, like here's a JQL statement you can put like they're trying to do. I do think that something like this would require something more advanced, like a script runner that can kind of track these kind of changes. The only thing that comes to mind is you can see certain fields in JQL, and let me pull these up. You can see if they were changed. And so I'll do a JQL, see if value was changed. And this is kind of a piggyback off of our question from last week, where somebody was asking for something along these lines of, I have code that potentially got changed. Like, how do I know if it actually got changed or not? So down at the very bottom, we have a changed example. And I just want to see, so it only works on, so it wouldn't even work on that field because it only works on assignee, fixed version priority, reporter, resolution, or status. So it doesn't work for the sprint value. So given that, I'm going to say that out of the box, there isn't anything there. And then I'm going to take it one step further and say, you don't want to do this. I am going to be watching this answer here. So let me just close these windows out. I'm going to watch this answer or watch this question because I'm very curious what other members of the community are going to answer with. I'm going to put my 2 cents here about this is a bad idea. You shouldn't be doing this. But I'm kind of curious how somebody else will answer. So let's see. Let's go to the next question. So the next question here is all right. How do I share settings with an existing project when creating a board? If I select create board, create from Scrum board, board created from new software project, next, there isn't a checkbox to say share settings with an existing project. Why is that? Or am I missing a step? Super annoying because not sharing settings creates a bunch of redundant settings that I don't need. Okay, just to clarify, I'm where the, okay, so, yep, so I am going to give, I'm going to give this one a like. I'm going to give this guy a vote, John Funk. He definitely has the right answer here. So your best bet is probably to copy the board used by the project you want to copy the settings from. Schemes are associated with the project only. So yeah, let me try to explain John's answer here in the video, because as John and Nick here are saying, there is no way to copy the board. So when you create a brand new project, you can, from the project level, you can take whatever settings were in project A in your source project, and you can bring them into project B, your destination project. And what I mean by your settings, I'm talking about like your screens, your workflows, your permissions, things of that nature. They basically get copied from the source to the destination, and you have a copy. There's some good things and there's some bad things. The good thing is now you have 2 projects that if you ever do need to make a change, let's say to the workflow, all you got to do is just add or modify the workflow in one place, and it will change them in both. The bad thing is the second you have 2 people that want 2 different configurations, that's no longer possible. I mean, technically it is, but they're both going to be impacted. So if you don't want that, if you don't want basically one person to basically own the whole thing, then I don't recommend it. Like it's just up to you, right? It's a matter of preference whether you want a shared setting or not. But this specific question is respect to the board. So when you do create a new project and you do click the box of sharing the settings, right? You bring in the issue type scheme, the workflow scheme, all that good stuff. The board doesn't get copied. The board doesn't come over. So you actually have to recreate a new board. So what I'm going to show you how to do is essentially I'm going to make a new project. I'm going to show you the settings to copy the settings here. But then I'm going to take it one step further. I'm going to show you what you need to do to copy the board, because copying the board is not enough. You actually got to go back into Jira and do some modifications on that board. So let me walk you through all that. So first things first, I'm going to just I'm just going to create a new project, and I'm going to base it off of this Friday Jira class because that happens to be my favorite one. And so I'm just going to do a Scrum board, and I'm going to call it Thursday Jira class. I wonder if I can get all 7 days of the week. Okay, and here's that share setting. So when I click on this setting, and I now get the ability to essentially pick the project that I want to copy from. And so I'm going to click on this copy from this project here. And this is going to give me the ability to essentially, again, copy those workflow schemes, those issue schemes, those permission schemes, all the schemes. You just copy them, carbon copy. But the board that I have in FJC, which I'm going to show them to you in a second, they don't come over. So here I am in my new Thursday class. I'm going to show you proof that the workflows and all this good stuff came over. So you can see these are from FJC here. So they're copied. And furthermore, Jira's telling me, hey, now you're sharing these, right? So they're shared with these two projects. So that's good, right? That's half the problem. But you'll notice that my boards are empty. When I go to these boards, it doesn't have any boards. So what gives? Why didn't we have our boards copied over? And so what we got to do here to make this work better, or to do the result that this particular user wants, we actually have to go into the board itself and make a copy of it. So here's my FJC board. But making a copy of the board is tricky. It's not trivial. You kind of know, you need to know what you're doing here. And so the easiest way that I find is if you go to the URL of your Jira and you pick, I think it's under Jira, and we're gonna leave Jira, and then we're gonna type in board here and hit enter. Definitely not the right place. Boards. Let me try boards. Boards. Okay. So you're gonna want to type in your URL /Jira/boards, and that'll take you to all your boards. You'll notice that I have my FJC board here, and if you swing yourself across to the right side, you'll be able to copy it. And so this will copy the same settings and the filter and everything that you have. And so now my board's copied, and you'll notice that it's under copy here, copy of FJC board. So the first thing you want to do is you're going to want to rename it, right? Because I don't think you're going to like copy. So you're probably going to want to call this TJC, Thursday Jira class board. And this is the critical part. This is the part where if you're not paying attention, pay close attention. Oh my gosh, I haven't even been showing you this whole time. Guys, this is what the chat's for. Let me go and redo that all over again because I was just talking to myself. So let me back it up. Let's back this up here and show you in Jira. And this is why the live stream, y'all gotta keep me accountable here. So let's go to the URL again. We're gonna jump in. We're gonna leave /boards. This will get us into the board. And just for demo purposes, I'm actually gonna delete the board that I just made so that I don't confuse you any more than I already am. All right. So what you want to do, once you go to the boards view here, we're going to click on copy. This will make a copy of my Jira board, and it's just going to name it copy, so you don't want that. So the next step is you're going to want to click on the ellipsis for the new copied board. Okay, and you're going to want to go to edit settings. This right here is taking you to the Friday Jira class, and you have a copy of it. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to rename the board to be like my Thursday Jira class board. Okay, that's the first step. The second thing you want to do, and this is the important part, you want to change the location of it to now be your Thursday Jira class board. So now we're in the right project, but we're not done yet. There's still some more configurations that we got to do when you do this copy, which is why I, as the Jira admin, I usually there's a balance of annoyance that you have to kind of level set with, right? So either A, I make the copies of the board, and then so now my swim lanes and things of that, and the filter itself is saved, preserved, but now I got to go back in and change it. I got to change the board name, I got to change the location, and most importantly, I got to change the filter, because when we go back and look at the filter here, the filter for this board is still for FJC, it's for my Friday Jira class. So I actually have to change it to be for my Thursday class. And then I have to deselect the Friday one, and then I have to save it, and then I have to share it. Make sure that it's shared, right? Once you do those things, now my Thursday board exists in the right project with the preserved columns, with the right filter, with the appropriate issues. But you notice that it was a 3-step process. So you kind of have to sit there and ask yourself, what's easier? Recreating your columns, recreating the filter, or making a copy of it and then renaming everything. But you want to make sure that if you go the route of the copy, that you that you pay attention and that you actually update the filter, because if you don't do that, then you're going to be referencing, even though the project or the board will be in the new project, you're still going to be referencing the old issues, and you're not going to want that. So that's not going to yield the results you want. So if you go down this copy route, just make sure you're careful and pay extra attention to that. So that's going to be that answer for that question. So I'm just going to move that one over to the side. So thank you very much for that question. So we're at almost at the 30-minute mark, and so I'm just checking to see if there's any questions. I see another thumbs up, so thank you very much to whoever did that thumbs up. And if you're not watching the live stream and you're watching the replay, trying to make it fun here. I'm trying to make sure that that you're learning some stuff and that we're all learning. And so I'm just gonna quickly just click on my YouTube, see how we're going. I don't think here we go. Okay. So anyways, let's go on and answer some more questions. So let's go to this one's a server, so I'm going to try to stay away from that one, and I'm seeing PowerScript, so that one sounds a little bit more intimidating than it needs to be, so I'm going to skip on that one. How do I make a custom field conditionally required? Ooh. So I don't know that that's possible, so let's take a look at this question. This is an interesting question. I probably shouldn't be picking questions that are really, really hard, and I should probably gate these. Okay, so I'm looking at script runner and hopes that I can make a custom field conditionally optional versus required based on another field. So far, it looks like this was possible using the server edition, but not in the cloud. So I understand worst case scenario, it would be to create a filter looking through the condition where the source. Okay, and let's see what they provide here. So I use a JMEW plugin, created a script validator. I believe script runner should be able to do it too. You just have to write it out. Yeah, there's not going to be a good way to do this. I don't even want to try to tackle that one. Gadgets, I am not the best here at the gadgets and the built-in stuff, so I'm going to skip this one. Can I filter a board view in a business project by a label? Not a big fan of the business projects, so I'm going to skip that one as well. How can I move one team managed project with a backlog under another team managed project? This sounds interesting. I don't typically play with team managed projects. I don't like them very much. But let's entertain this question here. Let's see what John. Man, John's just on top of it, man. John? What are you doing? That you and John and Nick are just like answering every question. Okay, so let's see what we got here. So how can I move one team project with all the backlog items under another team project as a sub project? I have master project A, and I have multiple projects A1 to distribute across our instance. I would like to achieve. Yeah, you're not going to be able to achieve that. You definitely cannot do that. But. So I'm going to vote on these, because these are really good answers here. And you know what? I'm not going to answer, because I made a promise to myself that I wouldn't be typing. So I'm going to put this to the side, but I'm going to share what I'm going to answer, because the verbal text is easier. So in this particular instance, the way I would approach this question is, it's okay to have like a master project. The problem is, because they're on team managed projects, one thing that I'm going to go check is, does team managed projects utilize versions? So let's go into, I think I do have a team managed project here, content planning and demo team project. So I'm going into and so I have releases. So my recommendation that I'm going to do to the user, or that I'm going to provide as an answer, is, while you can't do exactly what the user is trying to achieve, which is essentially have nested projects, that's not possible. What I would recommend for them to do is to leverage releases. So you could very much make a release for like A1, put some dates on there, and then create another release for A2 and put some dates on there, with the project being master project A or whatever that user had. So that's going to be my recommendation here, and I'll link back to the timestamp. This, because when you do this, and it's just a limitation of the fact that you're using this very basic team managed project. But at least what you'll be able to do is, when you create some issues in this backlog view, this is a story for project A1, and then I'll do a copy of, like, this is a story for project A2. And what I can do here is I can actually open these up, associate them back to my release, somehow, somewhere, assuming I can do it. Apparently, I can't do it. I shouldn't be doing these things without scripting these, but it's part of the learning experience. It's part of you watching me struggle and see how I learn Jira and how I go through it. So this tells me that I need to add the version. Why would it not come with the version automatically? Is beyond me. So let's go to the story. Let's drag and drop. Do I have version? I have a bunch of other fields, but I don't have version. Is it down here? It's not down here either. That's so interesting that I don't have the version field. You would have thought the fixed version field is a field. Like, Atlassian, what is going on here? Like, why would you let me create the version but then not give me the field? Like, what am I missing here? How does this make sense? Like, I don't want to create a. I don't want to create a field because I definitely don't want that. I just want to reference my release. Like, what is the purpose of the release at this point? Okay, let me see. Maybe I gotta turn it on. Issue Navigator. Let's try that one. Releases. Let's turn on releases, see if that does anything. Maybe by turning things on it'll like it better. But let's see. Let's go back to project. Let's go to issues now that I've enabled issues and see if somehow I can add that. Here we go. So not sure which of the two settings did it, but you want to make sure, again, if you're watching this recording here, you want to come in, set your fixed version. So now I can associate it to this one's going to be A2. And then I'll associate the other one to A1. And once you have that in your board, hopefully in your board, you can group by, nope, not by that. Not by that either. Man, I don't understand why anybody in their right mind would use the team managed project. If you haven't caught on by now, I absolutely hate team managed projects. But now you can basically sort, right? So now I can just show project A1 or I can show project A2 or both. So you get to pick that. And so that's how I would approach this problem. Hopefully that helps you out. Let me know. If you're watching the replay of this, let me know in the comments, see if it ever helped you out. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure you drop a subscribe there and drop a like on the video. So that is that question. So I'm going to move that one over to the side. And we are going to proceed. I'm probably going to go maybe 2 more questions and see what else we got going on here. So maintain same group of epics across 2 projects. Okay, well, this caught my attention. All right, so I have 2 different projects in Jira that I want to contain the same group of epics. Is there a way to clone the list of epics in one project when I create it in another? I don't want the issues cloned, just the list of epics. What does that even mean? Then, when I move issues from one project to another, I'd like to see them all funded. What the? Some of these questions. John A., I am sorry. You're watching this. What in the world are you asking me here? Let's see what the responses are. See if I can't fish some more answers to this. So, hey, John. Depending on whether you've configured each project as a company manager, there's a way about this. Before I get into that, I'm curious why you need to move issues between projects. That is a great question. Jira is designed for issues to be moved as an exception rather than a rule. Anyways, if these are company managed projects, you should consider a third project to act as a centralized. Yep, that would be a good way. This is definitely a great way. This would allow you to not only maintain epics as you move issues between projects, but allow you to only have to maintain one epic. And so let's see what this guy says. So I'm basically using one project as a repository for non-engineering, non-product folks to enter their product requests. I will then be moving requests into the engineering backlog once everything has been cleaned up and prioritized. However, it would be great to be able to have the same list of epics across both projects. So all I have to do is move the projects from one project to the next. They're both team managed projects. Well, this is where this guy has a problem. So some things to consider. Since these are team managed projects, you're not going to be able to use the shared epic approach. This is okay because we can leverage automation. I recommend cloning your original issue and closing out rather than moving issues. Again, we can leverage automation. Yeah, this I'm gonna leave this one alone. These are these kind of like questions that I see on the internet where it's like Jira can do pretty much anything, but at one point you gotta ask yourself like, should I do it? Just because I can, should I do it? Let's look at this next one. I have agents closing out parent issues with open subtasks. I want to prevent even and I thought there was a setting somewhere where I can't remember where. Can somebody please jog my memory? You can use the subtask blocking condition to block parent issues from transitioning dependent on subtasks in the workflow. Okay, so let's go find this because I've never used this one. Let's go see how we can block a project from transitioning when the subtasks aren't there. And this will probably be my last question because we're coming up on 40 minutes here, and this is, I'm assuming, going to take me a couple of minutes here. So let's go take a look. So we're looking for this subtask blocking condition in the workflow. So I'm actually going to jump back into another project, and at this point I really got to just make a bunch of different projects here because I don't want to I actually use these projects in my courses and stuff, so it'll get really annoying. Okay, so here's a great example. I have a story that is open. I have one subtask that is done and another subtask that is not, and so I don't want to be able to transition this story to done if that subtask is not completed. Now, out of curiosity, does Jira let me do it like this? So can I actually do this? Yes, it does. So that's that. So let's go set the automation, or sorry, the workflow rule based on the guy's recommendation to essentially block this from happening. So let's jump into the workflow. So we'll go to project settings. We'll go to workflows, and I'm going to edit this workflow. And so in this workflow, I'm going to come down to the done, and I'm going to click on the arrow, and I'm going to click on conditions. And in conditions, this is where I'm going to add a condition. And here's a block transition into approval. Not what I was looking for. Subtask, here we go. Condition, block parent issue transitioning depending on the subtask menu. So let's click on that. You know, one day I'm going to have to actually go look at all these because these have so many different conditions that I only use like one or two, and it'd be really good to kind of understand what all the different things do. So, add required parameters to the condition. What the hell does this mean? It's subtask required done? Let's try that. I'm not sure what to do there. When you make changes to your workflow, you want to make sure you hit publish draft. I don't like to make a copy, although in this case I probably should make a copy. And now that it's published, we can go back into the project and we can try to close that story. So you all saw earlier I was able to open the story and move it to done, but now you'll see I can't even move it to done. So that's interesting. So let me see what happens if I move this to done. And then, yep, now I can move it to done. So that's essentially how you do that. So in case you were curious on how you can prevent your parent from being closed out, you can essentially add that workflow modification, and that'll prevent your stories from being closed out if your subtasks haven't been closed out. So hope you enjoyed that one, and I'm going to leave this one over to the side again to include it in an answer to that community user. So that's going to be pretty much it for this one. Got 40 minutes here. There weren't any questions that came in, so my heart's a little broken. You guys, if you have any questions, this is I got 10 more of these happening this summer. It is hot in my room. It is the afternoon. If this is too late, let me know in the comment section below. I can move this earlier, or I can make this a little bit later. I just need some feedback here. And so if you have any thoughts, or if you're watching the replay and you're wondering, oh yeah, I wish I would have been able to make this live, let me know in the comment section. I'll be watching, I'll be monitoring, and so I'd be more than happy to change the time at a time that suits at least somebody so that you can all watch me struggle and learn how to use Jira a little bit better. Anyways, that's it for this one. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you consider subscribing. Drop a like if you found value, and if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. Thanks, and I'll see you next week.
I feel nauseous, believe me. Never had a lot of shit come easy. Had to work hard, struggle just to be me. Had to rise up just so they could see me. Did what I had to do just to feed me, and what was left over I put towards my dreaming. But the only thing in life that has meaning are the things you gotta work for, believe me. Take into your hands a plan, your own hands can land your own brand. And damn, I feel like no one takes accountability. They want the credibility, convincingly unwilling to put in the hours it takes to get some power. Don't be fucking sour, take a cold shower, scream until you're louder, work until you're prouder, and all the doubters, they're just downers. I swear to God they all let me down. I always fought just to wear the crown. I'm off at these fucking clowns who were all taught they deserve an ounce. It's only worth it if you work for it. It's only worth it if you work for it. I won't stop till they hear me now. I won't stop till I wear the crown.